Hey, Vanna. I don't blame you. I'm tempted to nap to this, too. I am tired today. It's my own fault. I keep staying up later than I should. But it's because I'm an idiot. I'm not a responsible person. Hey, Killface. Hey, Yosh. Hey, Trail Police. Sadly, for me, Friday is my Monday. It's the day I go back to work. Ugh. Ugh, don't fucking want to. Save money. Yeah, I'm still saving up money. Get a place my own at some point eventually, hopefully. But I don't know. It's hard because I mean, as soon as I get a place of my own, I stop saving any money. Yep. It's been a year that I've lived here. I gotta blow my nose. Give me a second here. That's better. Hi, Jordan. By the way, something I keep forgetting to... Something I discovered about this headset that I've got that I forgot to show off. It lights up! I'm not entirely sure what the point of it is. Suppose I haven't tested if that works as like a mute or something like that, but yeah, there's a little light on the end of it that you push in you push in on the side and yeah, it lights up. Whee! Where'd I go from? Just Staples. It's for clout. To celebrate with a hot tub? No, I mean the point of the little light on the end of the earpiece. But no hot tub stream. I'm not going in the hot tub. I don't want to. Man, I'm tired today. We'll see if I can even make it 2 hours today. I am pretty damn tired. The light means do a hot tub stream? Ah. No. What if there's no water in it? Still no. I don't wanna. I'd have to like move my camera over there and everything. Ugh. Honestly, it doesn't feel like it'd be comfortable to just lay in there. Pillow hot tub, sure. I don't really have enough pillows for that. I don't really have that many pillows. You guys have a reason not to? I mean, my main reason is that I just don't want to. The main reason is I just don't want to do it. Anyway. So, when we left off, things were not going great. Our attempts to woo the prince actually drove him back to his wife. So then we raided his room looking for anything we could use to win him over. Without any consideration, Kiana locked herself in her room with a scornful look. All the people here have become my enemies. I am sure of it. I can see it in their unmoved faces. But this matters little. I have what I need. Reveal all your secrets to me. With a dry mouth and an avid soul, the young Moor browsed the missives up and down, in the hope of discovering how to conquer her lover once and for all. And hey, memory fragment collected. Memory fragment number 3. She was sorely disappointed to only discover prattle. Most of the letters indeed came from Thalier's mistresses, who were renewing their desire to see him, imploring him to visit them more often. The similarity with her own situation hit a nerve, and she grumbled. I am different. He will not abandon me. He will stay. He will. That hair would be heavy to carry around. Heavy is the head, right? A new epistle caught her attention. My lord, I have received your reply, but I cannot believe it. Why would you deny us the favor to join you at the castle? I am very well aware that you do not want to bother your spouse, but I would like to meet her. I believe it is important for us to talk if we are to share your life. And should you not announce the birth of your son? The kingdom has a right to know. I have resigned myself to the fact that you will never legitimate me. But this child deserves better. It was certainly the woman the servants had alluded to in the previous timeline, the one who had managed to give birth, but whose child had passed away after a few weeks. She could not convince him either. Or she could not convince him either. Yet I felt that he was ready to give in for me. I was so close to my goal. I can do it this time again. Upon scattering the letters on the bed, Kiana noticed one at the bottom of the box. It was torn, which piqued her interest. She immediately began putting the pieces back together so that she could decipher its content. So hey, Yay! Puzzle game! Who doesn't like a good puzzle, right? Yay, I'm good at puzzles! Not that it's terribly difficult, but... Hurrah! I finished the puzzle! Once put together, the fragments revealed numerous crossed-out words. Upon examining the signature, the princess immediately understood its singularity. It was not a missive addressed to Thalia, but a draft written by Thalia himself. Heart pounding, Kiana thought she had the remedy to her misery in hand.
Could it be intended for me? Could he be confessing his feelings?
Dubious. In reality, the letter was her poison.
Seraphine, my love, we have not talked for a very long time. As soon as I see you, my heart sinks, and I do not know what to say. I have tried numerous times to confess my sins to you, but nothing escapes from the prison of my lips. So I have decided to take my courage in my hands and write. Although I have not always been very present, I am very fond of you. My feelings towards you remain unaltered. Do you remember the frog pond from our childhood? And that first kiss we shared in secret in the shades of the bocages? Power might have entrusted me with responsibilities. I have nonetheless never stopped cursing them and sighing, thinking about the ancient times, those times where everything was easier. What would I give to go back? This lost carefreeness weighs on me. Not a night goes by without me holding you in my arms, caressing that smile I have not seen for so long, and that hair blonder than the purest gold. Would you forgive me my folly? Would you comfort me one more time?
Hey, Scriptcoat. Aww. Can't hate the dude. Yeah, it's impossible to hate this dude. He's a decent dude. Or at least he wants to be a decent dude. He wants to be a good man and a good husband. Eyes transfixed, her eyes wearing a macabre grimace, the princess let herself fall onto the bed covered in letters. Her fingers clung to the sheets and rolled them onto her eyes. She remained that way, motionless and unable to speak, for hours and hours. Do I truly hate anyone? Of course! Plenty of people that I hate. The message of love that the king intended for Seraphine had robbed her of her hopes. The retainer had been truthful. Although they had drifted away, the bond between them was much stronger than anything she could ever develop with Thalia. Even in turmoil, he was thinking about her. Kiana was only a fling, entertainment, the potential mother of his children. She could never become the love of his life. Besides us, the shock was so big that she was no longer able to cry. Indifferent, mechanical, she did not move either when she heard someone knock on her door.
Madam, it is time for supper. I am not hungry. Would you like us to leave some gruel in front of your door as a snack? No!
Her commanding tone eventually fed the lady-in-waiting's exasperation, and she was quick to join the other retainers in the main room.
Oh, the boor! Why does she have to treat me that way?
What happened?
Would you believe it? She refuses to eat. And wouldn't you know it, this happened mere hours after finding Lord Thalier's bedroom in a horrendous state. I don't know why she'd want to rummage through his personal belongings, but she did just that. And she had the nerve to order me to clear out her mess right after. I don't know what her intentions are, but I am now convinced that she's an absolutely detestable human being.
Oh, she's bad. Bad!
My God, what happened to Gregoire? He looks sick.
I found him under the table. That impious woman made him drink. The bottles of wine were empty.
Are you sure so?
Where would Gregoire help himself with the sovereign reserve? She must have offered him. I see no other explanation.
But that's vile! And he precisely want to gradually stop drinking alcohol.
Girl I hated died from a hospital mistake. Sounds like a win.
Do you think she knew?
Of course. It's too big of a coincidence. She knew perfectly well what she was doing.
Let's keep an eye on her so that she doesn't commit another perfidy.
Bad! Bad! I forgot he was drunk. That night, as Kiana was discreetly going to Thalier's bedroom to put the letters she had stolen back in their place, she was overcome with uncontrollable nausea. She then realized that she was once again pregnant. She decided not to talk about it to the monarch yet, partly because she was scared that it would only be a false alert, and partly because she did not want to see him for some time. Her only solace lay in the fact that she was expecting a child much sooner than previously. She was thus utterly convinced that her end was near. A little while later, as Kiana was getting fresh air on the patio, she heard a familiar voice. Well, hello! Would you happen to need anything? I have on me what is needed to sew, all the tools you would need in your everyday life, handkerchiefs, as well as a number of remedies.
You're coming along at just the right time, Mr. Merchant. We're all suffering from insomnia, therefore some herbal tea would indisputably soothe us. I also have a friend who has recently been wrecked by alcohol. Thus, if you were to have at your disposal something to treat him, it'd be wonderful.
I cannot promise it will make his sickness disappear, but I do have some medicinal herbs that should do the trick and do him a world of good.
Fabulous! Please come in.
The young Moor caught sight of Gemma escorting a silhouette that was recognizable from miles away. She clearly distinguished her friend Georges, laden with bags and trinkets of all kinds. She had been waiting for him so much during her previous pregnancy, and she was terribly lonely that she felt elated to see him.
Finally, a friendly face. Oh, Georges, how I have missed you.
She was prepared to run towards him when she was struck by doubt.
Does he only remember me? I do not know if I am supposed to have met him or not. Oh, it does not make much difference anyway. I will be careful and make a decision based on his reactions.
Brushing aside any restraint, Kiana ventured into the living room, a big smile on her face. Here you go. Here's everything you need.
Thank you again for coming.
Do not mention it. As a peddler, it's my duty to move about from house to house to ensure that nobody is in need of anything, and I shall not ignore the cry for help of a pretty girl. The lady-in-waiting rolled her eyes and was about to see the guest at the gate when she detected her presence. She grudgingly bowed down.
Lady Kiana?
I suppose that this is the lady of the house?
Absolutely.
Georges bowed Given his behavior, it seemed obvious that he did not know her yet. The princess decided to improvise in order to convince him to keep her company.
Are you leaving already?
I must. It appears that your retainer has already bought all the products that could be of use in your house, and the road ahead is quite long.
Are you not a peddler? It would please me very much to hear some news from surrounding villages.
Well, seeing as I am already here, how could I deny a customer this pleasure?
Please sit back. It is so hot, would you not fancy a lemonade?
Madam is too generous.
Gemma, go fetch him a fresh drink. Right away, madam.
Kiana was overjoyed to be able to spend time alone with her friend. She could not tell him everything, but the sound of his voice was already soothing. This good mood, which was usually reserved for Lord Thallier, aroused the servant's suspicion. She was set on staying nearby to make sure that she would not do any harm to the merchant. Therefore, once the lemonade was brought, she started to wipe the furniture and tidy the dishes.
Gemma, what are you doing here?
I am looking, madam. The princess felt unmatched animosity towards her.
I knew it, they are watching me. They do not want me to enjoy myself, the rascals.
Moments after, exceptionally angry, she came closer to her lady-in-waiting and prompted her in a low voice.
Away with you and your floor cloths. When there are guests at home, servants do not start cleaning the room they are in.
Unimpressed by her threats, the involved party retorted out loud with a little smirk.
This is a good opportunity, as the weather is so nice. It does not bother you, Mr. Merchant, does it?
By no means. You belong here, and I am merely a passing visitor. I have no objection to that. Irate, Kiana used an imperious tone.
Well, you are bothering me.
I am quite sorry to hear that, madam. The retainer continued her work with feigned diligence, which finished the lady trying the lady of the house's patience. While Georges was looking away, probably out of courtesy, she grabbed the floor cloth and angrily pinched her arm.
Ouch, it hurts so much. You have no right to pinch me, if Lord Thallier were to know.
Her ears reddened by wrath, fingers still quivering, Kiana could no longer contain the rage that was setting her whole being alight.
I did not touch you, liar!
Standing up for herself, Gemma fought back by sporting the red mark clearly visible on her arm.
What is this mark if you did not touch me?
The princess's expression turned into one of a demon, and she gave her a stinging slap in the face. Georges stood up, taken aback by such sudden violence, while tears were forming in the corner of the servant's eyes. Astounded, she remained motionless, her arms dangling, while the young Moor was tapping her foot impatiently.
Leave this room at once!
Taking advantage of the retainer's sudden apathy, Kiana raised her hand once more to hit her. As he could not bear such a sight, the merchant instinctively got between them and tried to reason with her. Man. The way she was murdered by Seraphim has really done a number on Kiana. She is bad in this timeline.
Madam, I beg of you, please calm down. She is getting what she deserves.
Negotiations went sour as, in the blink of an eye, Georges received a slap with the same scale on the cheek. Hey, Pika. I'd be angry too if I died 10,000 times. Well, so far it's been 1, 2, 3, 4 times. She's died 4 times so far. In fairness, each was more horrific than the last. Drowning, buried alive, crucifixion, tongue cut out, and she bled to death and choked on her own blood. while her baby was taken off to be cut up and cooked. That last death did a particularly heavy number on her. He then stepped back, terrified. Pale and with trembling lips, he went towards the table on which he had left all his merchandise and loaded them on his back. Kiana promptly understood that she had gone too far and rushed toward the door.
Where are you going?
There is no way I am staying in this madhouse another minute. Panicked, she tried to block his way. Slapping bitches only happened when provoked. Yep.
No, do not leave, not already. Josh, you cannot leave me in such a state. Your departure will make me so unhappy.
His only response was to glare daggers at her. How can you believe, madam, that I am going to stay when you have just hit me? And how do you even know my name? I do not remember mentioning it. The princess did not know how to justify herself. The peddler's accusing glare went straight to her heart. Thus she let herself be gently pushed aside. You scared me and shamed me, madam. Your behavior is deeply unhealthy. I will never set foot here again. Farewell. Without delay, he left the house and headed for the gate at a distraught pace. Suddenly coming back to part of her senses, Kiana chased after him for a while, shouting,
Very well, go away if that is what you wish. And now I am going to cry until it makes me sick.
Despite this last provocation, Georges did not look back, and soon he was on the road, out of sight. Devastated, the young woman fell on her knees in front of the property's entrance and burst into tears so loudly that they echoed through Claremont for hours. What should have been a joyful reunion had deeply degenerated, and there was no turning back. That day, Kiana lost her only potential friend. Left to her own devices once again, the princess vainly tried to convince herself that her plan was unfolding as planned, even though everything had become insufferable to her. Unhappiness and loneliness were making her so aggressive and bad-tempered that nobody had dared speak to her since Gemma's incident. Worse still, Thalia was playing hard to get, claiming that he was busy, and she was still unable to announce her pregnancy to him. Though, through spite, she resolved to turn to her last ally. One afternoon, as she was moping on the patio, it occurred to her that she could summon the fairy to force her to keep her company. A whirlwind of dead leaves materialized in front of her, and the creature came out of it with a more sullen look than usual.
Yes, my child? I am dying of boredom, godmother. All the people who live here are against me. I need to talk to someone I can rely on.
Oh, really? I did not know I was so trustworthy.
At least you have not tried to stab me in the back like the others yet.
This is indeed not my style. I never strike without warning. There was something sinister about the chuckle escaping from her lips. Kiana could not help shivering for an instant. Enough joking. Why did you call me here?
I have already told you, I am longing for a confidant. All those who are surrounding me are miscreants who are only seeking to harm me. Being so kind, would you not converse with me a little?
Have you considered that your isolation could be the fruits of your own actions,
What are you implying here, godmother?
Have I ever struck someone in unbridled rage? I have not, as far as I can recall. I have observed your stay since its beginning, and it is rather clear that you did wonder to cut yourself off from everyone.
I have done nothing wrong. I make an effort to be polite with the retainers. I talk to them from time to time, and Thalia regularly comes to court me.
Are you not confusing with your previous life? The events are so similar that you are mixing them up.
Absolutely not. I am quite capable of distinguishing the difference.
Hey, Demillion.
I can tell by the fact that Georges did not stay with me this time because of that witch Gemma. That devil did everything she could to stop him. See, I am not hallucinating.
Not yet. Princess, you must stop imagining that the whole world wants you dead. It is only making your tempo worse and worse.
But that is the truth. All the retainers here are Lady Salfin's accomplices, and Lord Thalia is under her influence. She is scheming to kill me again, I know it.
Medea's only reply was to raise her eyes heavenward, which increased her protégé's fury.
How can you be so calm when my life is at stake? Are you not the one who said that I should bring an end to my time travels as soon as possible? If I die, I will have to begin again, and you will remain trapped with me.
I know this all too well. You forget that I am also the one who advised you not to act precipitously, which you immediately did. I was even against your idea. I did not want to see you come back to Claremont, discerning all too well what could happen. And you are proving me right today. Annoyed, Kiana clicked her tongue.
Are your veins full of ice water to remain so stoic? Mine are boiling.
Princess, calm now. Do you believe to be the only human being I have come across in all my existence? I have seen many others make desperate attempts before you. I am accustomed to death. I do not fear it. Hi, Kelly.
You can at least pretend to feel sorry for me.
Nonsense. I may be your godmother, but I am not your nanny. Besides, you had been warned. Did I not tell you to be careful because you were already losing sight of what was truly important?
Could you stop being so nebulous with your riddles?
The fairy sighed loudly, visibly at her wit's end. You humans are all the same. When you do not want to look the truth in the face, one could break your nose with it and you would still deny seeing anything. Think for yourself. You will reflect on your denatured wish when you will be alone again. Now, if you will excuse me, I would rather take my leave. Even a flower pot is friendlier. And without giving her interlocutor a chance to protest, she disintegrated into the wind. The princess became exasperated.
Medea! Medea, come back! I urge you to appear before me.
Hey, Sama. That's fine, Sama. Thanks for stopping in, at least. The creature turned a deaf ear, which forced her to calm down a bit. Understanding that her shrieks would not bring her back, Kiana lost herself in the contemplation of the autumnal garden. The short meeting had at least the merit of giving her food for thought.
What is she trying to say? What could I have lost sight of?
As her godmother had advised her, she started thinking about the nature of her wish.
I asked to go back in time to undo my mistakes, but I do not remember quite well why. I believe that I had some reservations about paying the fairies tribute. What was it again?
Her memory seemed to be fogged by those long months of learning. She had lived through so many things that at the time, when she was a naive girl, now seemed distant, nebulous. She had lived through so many things that the time when she was a naive girl now seemed distant. Yet, to solve the fairy's riddle, she had to remember her first reluctance. Kiana meditated at length until the breeze finally whispered the answer to her, resurrecting old and less old buried memories. Princess, princess, over here! Fall has come and the trees are full of colors!
As it does every year, Nahima. There is nothing remarkable about it.
I believe that you are wrong. Each season is another opportunity to admire nature. If God made it so beautiful, it would be a shame not to enjoy it. Hey, color purple.
You have something in the back of your mind. Do you want to dance in the wind again?
The weather is unfortunately too calm for that. What if we go pick chestnuts instead?
Today?
Pretty please, princess. I want to pick chestnuts so much.
Understood, understood. Do not sulk. Here, look, I am following you.
Magic comes at a price. In exchange for having your greatest wish fulfilled,
You must vanish from the memory of the person you love the most.
That epiphany ejected her from her reveries like a thunderclap.
Nahima!
She had been so preoccupied by her own personal problems, her adventures, her repeated deaths, that she had forgotten what was most important, her childhood friend. So that was the warning her godmother had tried to give her, not to forget what she was fighting for. If Kiana had refused to pay the fairies tribute, it was because she did not want to sacrifice her relationship with Nahima. And yet, quite ironically, she had still expunged her from her life. She had abandoned her. That was why her wish had become denatured. It had been rendered completely meaningless. She could have destroyed her rival and saved her son during her previous life, since she was not fighting for Nahima anymore. If she had issued the exact same request, it must have been because fragments of fondness were still lingering in her mind, only begging to resurface. All that needed to be done was to warm her heart frozen by hostility. By misfortune, she was not able to question her actions or come back on her mistakes. Instead, too deeply drowned in her delirium, she completely embraced them. Are we about to get a bad ending? Dang. Thus, when the fairy paid her a visit the following day, she found that she had hardly changed.
Have you calmed down since yesterday, Princess? I have never lost my temper.
Really? I dare not imagine what the face of your fairy would be if this is your serenity.
Have you given any thought to what I told you? Naturally, I even solved your little charade. You are trying to make me feel guilty because I did not bother to speak with Nahima before escaping my father's castle, is that it?
Guilty is a mighty big word.
I only sought to help you, my child. If you wish to overcome your shortcomings, you do need to acknowledge them first. I have made no mistake. Admittedly, I regret having been so distant towards Nahima, but I had good reasons to do so.
And what are those reasons?
Given my circumstances, you should understand why my flight was an emergency. I needed to save my situation at Claremont first.
So your position as Prince Thalier's mistress and mother of the future heir to the throne was more important than your friendship?
Do not twist my words. I intend to summon her once all of this will be resolved.
Why not do so earlier? Her presence could have been a substantial asset to foil your own murder. Kiana opened her mouth so wide that she could have dislocated her jaw. She thought she had an answer for everything. However, she had to admit that the fairy had destabilized her. Her argument sounded extraordinarily simple, and yet so evident. Why did she not think of contacting Nahima? She would have been safe at Claremont, and life would have only become more pleasant. Vigorously shaking her head, she tried to make those atrocious thoughts disappear, those thoughts of failure. She could not come to the terms with the fact that she had wasted full months waiting in this prison for nothing, all the more so now that she had come back. All her certainties tumbled down like sandcastles, and she desperately attempted to grab onto something.
It is too late now.
Sensing that her protégé was staggering under the weight of unavowed remorses, Medea came closer and gently placed a hand on her shoulder.
It is never too late, child.
Kiana violently pushed her away.
Of course it is too late. After all the horrors I committed, I cannot go back. Not this time. I need to succeed, you hear?
Affliction clouded the fairy's face.
I see that it is pointless to insist. If you are going to be this way, I will leave you to your own spitefulness. You have no right to run away. We are bound by a magical pact. You must obey me.
Oh, but I do not owe you anything, Princess. The pact only compels me to fulfill your wish. Nothing more, nothing less. All the small favors I do are purely voluntary, and I am free to put an end to it immediately if I see fit.
This is not what you told me in the previous timeline.
Really? In that case, I lied. Unless I am lying right now.
So you betrayed me as well!
Medea growled, yielding to anger and exasperation herself.
It is decidedly impossible to have any sort of discussion with you. Know, my dear, that as you kept wearing a mask of malice to harden your heart, you became the mask itself. Here you are now, just as despicable as the woman you hated, if not more. Tissue of lies! I am done here. It is impossible to talk some sense into you anyway, given the state you are in. I will now only respond to your calls if you swear not to insult me again. I do not wish you a good evening, madam.
The creature disintegrated into the void with a dark look. Alone once again, Kiana restlessly paced the few meters of her room up and down.
I am fine. Everything is fine. Everything is perfectly fine.
Tissue of lies. It's a pretty good, it's a pretty good word. A pretty good phrase. It's a pretty good turn of phrase. Hey, was that? Yes, I do. With unmatched nervousness, she went round in circles the whole evening and fasted again, as she was now doing from time to time. As if to confirm the fairy's prediction, she went to bed early, exhausted but boiling inside. Lying down on a bed that felt so hard, she stared at the ceiling with a gaunt face. As her vision was becoming blurry, the darkness slowly made way for a bright light she could not ignore. Nameless Sins is the name of this tune. Upon half-heartedly adjusting her eyes, she caught sight of the sun, a blue sky, the light reflections of the early morning. Me every morning upon waking. Not wrong. A fresh breeze was caressing her cheek, and, for one moment, she felt good. Suddenly, she had an uncontrollable cough attack. She wanted to bring her hands to her mouth, but she realized that she was suspended in midair, unable to free herself. Blood dripped from the metal. Blood dripped from her mouth. She was suffocating. She was slipping. Everything was turning into white. And then the pain came. Her throat was on fire. Her throat was burning terribly. Her hands unconstrained, she seized her own neck in the hope of mitigating the uninterrupted flow, but the hemoglobin was turning black. Black was her throat. Black was her soul. Terrified, she screamed like an animal. Ah! Once again, a few retainers gathered on her doorstep. Another night hell, just great. And she locked herself again, that devil! What are we going to do? I have a hairpin, leave it to me. Perfect, in that case I will prepare the remedy the merchant sold us. Reckless idiots, what are you doing? If the Lord knew... Hey, Newman Corp. Good scream, thanks, Newman. Listen, she's been bellowing for 20 minutes straight now, and we all have work to do tomorrow. I can't deal with this situation anymore. Let's give her those damned plants so that she calms down. What if we inadvertently poison her? Well, we'll make it look like an accident. We'll say that she bit her tongue in her sleep or something like that. I'm willing to take the risk. I can't cope with that girl anymore. Thus, they forced the door and administered a sedative to the young Moor. Fortunately for her, it did not have any undesirable effect. Servants were satisfied and then went back to sleep. Oops, I forgot to move myself back up here. When she awakened, she had a bitter aftertaste in her mouth, and she noticed that her door was not locked anymore. Her eyes immediately narrowed. Seraphine attempted to kill me last night. Kiana's obsession towards her rival resumed with greater intensity, becoming more unhealthy than ever. Convinced that her invisible enemy was after her unborn child, and that she needed to protect herself from an imminent attack, she was now spending most of her days scheming all sorts of plans to eliminate her. Her preoccupations were so invasive that retainers could not ignore her anymore. My goodness, I've just glimpsed the mistress on the patio. She was talking to herself in a monotonous tone. It was absolutely terrifying. Did you hear what she was saying? I didn't dare to come an inch closer. As soon as she noticed my presence, she shot me a dirty look before fleeing anyway. That woman scares the hell out of me. I've never liked her that much to begin with, but we are reaching an unbearable point. I genuinely fear for my life when she's around. I understand what you mean. It's the same for me. The other day she grabbed the servant by the hair because her tea was cold. I thought she was going to kill her. You are talking about a strange illness. I say that she's simply disturbed. She can only be crazy. You want to hear the best part? She's starting to talk in her sleep too. How do you know this? That's right, she always locks the door with 2 turns of the key. Especially since last time. Don't tell a soul, but I've made a duplicate of the key. Every time she has a new night terror, I walk into her quarters to administer the medicine to her. Are you crazy? What if she catches you? She has already woken up a few times, but she's not conscious of her surroundings. It's as if she's still dreaming with open eyes. That is no reason to continue. You're going to get punished. Maybe so, but if I don't bring an end to our torment, one of us is eventually going to choke her to death in a rage. She's been preventing us from sleeping for months. Had she been friendly, it would have been all right, but no, we've been scared of her for far too long. The fact remains that I sometimes hear her speak upon coming closer. Would you believe it? She keeps repeating Lady Seraphin's name. She says that she's going to kill her, to make her pay. This makes me sick. How can she resent a woman she never met so much? I told you she's shady. She's a witch, an unbeliever. The sooner the Lord will get rid of her, the better. This story scares me even more. I refuse to be left alone to face her. You won't be. We will now find a way to always be 2 in the same vicinity to ensure that she's not going to take advantage of the opportunity to make one of us disappear. Dahlia needs to be notified. Working in such conditions is no longer possible. I agree. In the meantime, let's stay united and grit our teeth, hoping that the storm will pass. Far from passing, the situation worsened even more when the monarch finally deigned to pay his mistress a visit. Overjoyed, she hastened to announce her pregnancy to him. She had expected expressions of love, congratulations. That was not the case at all. My lady, I have not been completely honest. As a matter of fact, I am already married. I had suspected it a little. But I do not care much. You can love the both of us, can you not? The young man shook his head with a serious look. Kiana thought her heart was going to fail her. Looking her right in the eye, he gently took her hand. I am elated to learn that you are expecting a child, and I will obviously ensure that you shall not lack anything. However, I cannot promise to love you, nor to legitimate you one day. Why not? If I give birth to a healthy heir, you will take him into consideration, will you not? Lady Kiana, all my life I have been continually avoiding problems. My relationship with you was only a passing fancy to escape them. Today I have decided to face up to them, and not fall back into my old ways.
I know that you love me, but I cannot reciprocate your feelings, even if you give me a son.
Already strained by those long months spent as a recluse, fed by paranoia and hatred, the last barrier that was protecting her heart collapsed. She fainted, and a physician was immediately called. It was declared that she needed to rest a lot, and that she was not allowed to leave her bed for fear of her weakness putting her at risk during the childbirth to come. The entire household begrudgingly took care of her, and Thalia stayed at her bedside for a while before returning to the castle. In his absence, the young Moor's fever increased, as her restlessness did, and she was unable to think rationally. The Claremont domain was in the eye of the cyclone. Le Miroir de Vérité. Indeed, as winter was approaching, Kiana began to suffer from attacks that were more and more common. Everything was so deeply insufferable to her that her feverish confusion was becoming madness. Even when the wind would be strong, she would open the window and tear her pillows with her teeth. This is a really pretty image. Like, even as a sign of how crazy she's gone, it's just a really pretty image.
Where is it? Where is it? I know it is here. Those retainer scoundrels put it here to make me spend horrible nights. I know it is somewhere between those feathers. The pea. The nasty pea which is preventing me from shutting my eyes.
The Princess and the Pea. Oh, Sleeping Beauty image. The Princess and the Pea, published in 1835, is one of the first tales attributed to Hans Christian Andersen. Very brief, it narrates the quest of a suspicious prince who wants to ensure he marries a true princess without ever succeeding. On a torrentially rainy night, a lost young woman comes knocking on his door and asks to stay for the night, claiming to be a princess. To unmask her, the old queen places a green pea at the bottom of the bed and covers it with 20 mattresses and 20 duvets. When she is asked if she slept well, she complains about atrocious back pains. The gathering acknowledges that only a princess could be so delicate, and the prince weds her at once. That is pretty glad I minimized my window to look at it. The Princess and the Pea amuses me because it's like, oh, she's definitely a princess. Marry her. And it's like, okay, but the point is that she is so goddamn fussy that a pea beneath 20 mattresses and 20 duvets that pea jacked her back up. She's that goddamn, like, that is one hell of high maintenance, you know? Like, talk about high friggin' maintenance. Also, 69%. Nice. Hey, weirdo. Nice. This just sounds like turning 40. Fair, Jordan. That is absolutely fair. I cannot disagree with you on that one. Did you sleep well? I somehow injured myself sleeping. One crease in my PJ kind of hurts. One fold of the comforter not laying down nicely will keep me up. I was thinking like over 9,000 pillows. I mean, yeah, I mean... Millet pillows must be arranged nicely. I mean, like, I need to have something that I'm holding. Like, I need my arms in a specific position that's 18 sleep aids and a neck pillow. Like, that's why I got that stuffed seal. Is like, my arms are sort of in the right position for me to sleep. What's the best color for bed sheets? I mean, I'm inclined towards lighter colors. White or a light blue.
Where is it? Even through 10 duvets and 10 mattresses, I could feel this little hard thing bending my back.
Once the pillows were pierced and searched, she would then throw them in the air and dance under the rain of feathers. Like snowflakes, the pieces of quilt would scatter across the room.
Snow, snow!
This macabre ball would set ablaze the young woman's delirious eyes. Burning, taken by convulsions, she would go to the window and inhale big cold blasts. Attracted by the noise, some servants would eventually rush over to stop her.
Madam, what are you doing? It is not reasonable to open the window in your state.
Can't believe I paused my game to rant about bedclothes. Well, yeah! That shit's important, Sama. You gotta, you know. Certain conversations must be had. She would seldom answer, doing little more than laughing, looking out of her mind. Sometimes she would even lean, threatening to fall. The servant would invariably attempt to lure her away from the window, but the strength that delirium gave her would make that task very complicated, and she would only withdraw after a bitter struggle. This little show would be repeated many times, mentally exhausting the entire staff, which had a tremendously hard time holding back the lady of the house. It was in this harsh climate that the child of Kiana and Thalia was born. The delivery unfolded in very much the same fashion as the first time, except that the princess was already feverish and faint. She thus remained at the edge of consciousness throughout the whole process. These unexpected difficulties made it so that her life was still in danger. Because of the suffering that was devouring the mother, nobody seemed to care about the baby all that much during the very first hours after their coming to the world, and they cried so much that they could have destroyed their lungs. Naturally, they were then entrusted to a nanny, who took care of them while the princess' fate was being decided. Give me your ping? Oh. Kiana struggled in her half-sleep for days and days, until, at last, she managed to overcome the disease once and for all. This miracle was abundantly commented. This woman is not only a witch, she's a lioness. In the unstable state she was in, she should have never regained consciousness, and died within a few hours. I'm almost sad she survived. She would have stopped suffering at least. Do you think she will really recover? A shadow still seems to be looming over her life. God will make her pay 100-fold for her crimes. You'll see. When the young Moor finally regained consciousness, servants ensured that she was able to take the newborn in her arms before leaving them to her. Burning up, her mind still rather distraught, she silently stared at her child.
It is a little girl. A girl?
Absolutely.
Take good care of her.
The retainers left in order to let her have some rest, and she lay down on her bed, completely exhausted. She fell asleep almost immediately. Her sleep was dark, devoid of dreams, suffocating. In that other world, Morpheus realm, she no longer existed. She did not feel anything. That apathy brought such a relief. Nothing mattered anymore. However, that peace was brief, for the little being did not take long to whine, probably hungry. In a gloomy mood, Kiana called her lady-in-waiting. Gonna be dark? Yep.
Someone feed her.
With all due respect, madam, should you not be the one to breastfeed the child?
Me? Why would it be my role?
Because it is your child! The princess seemed to slowly think about it.
Oh yes, you are right. I am the mother. But I am so weary. Please see to this baby for me.
Understood. Yeah, this is a very dark image. Very dark mirror of. Oops. Oh. The heir has hardly bothered seeing her daughter. She had always hid behind 1,000 different excuses to avoid taking care of her, and would spend most of her time in her bedroom staring at the landscape through her window. Since she had not been given a name yet, and the child was strikingly pale, she was nicknamed the Moon. Little Moon was living showered with love and attention by the retainers, who would gladly take turns to take care of her. There you've got the image of her with her first kid. And the image of her with her second kid. Very dark reflections there. The prince himself hastily came to see her, and grew very fond of her.
Oh, look at these tiny, tiny hands. She looks like a doll.
Be careful not to break her, my lord. Poor Moon, yet.
Naturally, I would never dare to hurt the flesh of my flesh. Do you think that I could bring her to the castle with me?
Not yet, my lord. She is still frail. In a few weeks, maybe, if she is in good health.
I am sure that she will be healthy. Oh, little Moon, we will need to find a name worthy of you.
Heartbeat beating. I mean, partly. Though she was generally fucked up before the kid came. So it's like by the time the kid was born, she didn't even care about it anymore. Like she never, like, especially finding out it's a daughter. But you could choose one. You could choose one as of now, Johannes.
I know, but I would have preferred to consult with Lady Kiana. Moon is also her child, and she has the right to have a say. Incidentally, I have not seen her for far too long. What happened to her? Is she still recovering?
The retainers grimaced in concert. A charitable soul came forward.
We have announced your arrival to her, but she refuses to leave her room to greet you.
Really? Is it out of modesty?
We do not know, my lord.
Take Moon. I will ask her this instant. Worried, the sovereign knocked on the bedroom door.
Kiana, my love, what is wrong?
Do you not want to see me? No response came. Gathering his courage, he persisted. If your current appearance is what is preventing you from opening the door, know that there is nothing to be ashamed about. The silence became stony. He tried one last time. Could it be something else? Is there anything I have said or done that were not to your liking? I mean, being married and telling her that you'll never love her? A hoarse voice suddenly startled him.
Leave me alone. I do not want to see you.
Could you at least explain why?
I cannot stand you anymore. There, are you satisfied? Now be gone!
Prince Thalia was quite upset because, despite the fact that the relationship was becoming more and more strained, he did not hate her, and had secretly hoped that she would accept the role of a concubine. In spite of everything, he convinced himself that it was merely a rough period, that she simply needed more time, and that he should also make some efforts. Faced with his lover's silence, he transferred all his affection to the child. Moon's name was on everyone's lips, and he would speak about her from morning to night. His overflowing good mood made Kiana's resentment even worse. It was not uncommon anymore to hear her make harrowing screams in the middle of the day, which did not fail to turn the blood of Claremont's inhabitants to ice. You have to be a nasty creature to continually cry this way. I really don't understand that girl. If she's so sad, why does she stay cooped up in her room?
Surely it's because of her pride. I bet she just can't accept to ask for help.
Part about being a concubine? I mean, it's just like... Basically, that last death she had completely broke her. She's paranoid. Like, it made her paranoid and angry and resentful and just... Yeah, that last death that just robbed her of all her goodness. Her pride will take her to the grave. I thought that the birth of a child would appease her. That's not the case at all. She still seems so fierce, it sends shivers down my spine. But still, she's sobbing far more than our little Moon. Anyone would think that she is the baby. The princess's uninterrupted weeping eventually reached her godmother, who deigned to appear before her one night.
What is wrong, my child? I do not know. The whole world is against me. Nothing seems to work as I had intended.
Are you going to scrap your plan, then?
Certainly not. I am so close to my goal. I only need to eliminate Seraphine to get everything back that was taken from me. Get back everything that was taken from me.
But she has not taken your daughter from you just yet. Meant when the prince is like, what I say? Yeah, that definitely, yeah.
Not yet, but I know that she is scheming with that in mind.
That is surprising. If you care about her so much, why do you not keep her by your side?
This is unnecessary.
Are you chagrined because she is not the heir you wish to give the prince?
I am disappointed, I will not hide it, but it hardly matters for the time being.
Why such coldness if this is not the reason? Under tornado watch?
Because she can still die, of course. Have you forgotten that a sword of Damocles is permanently looming over me? I grew attached to my son and he died. How can I be sure that Moon is not going to share the same fate? So you are motivated by love. No, this is not love yet. I am merely protecting myself. Moon will only truly become my daughter the day I will be assured to save her. I just do not want to suffer once more.
Is it not already too late for that? No, I don't think we've ever had a... To the best of my knowledge, we've never had a tornado watch here.
What do you know about what I am going through? No one understands me. No one is willing to understand me.
It should be said that you do not facilitate our task, Princess. Even so, I am trying to extend a hand and you reject it.
How can I be sure that you are not going to betray me? You have ignored all of my calls, and you have the nerve to appear before me, looking all innocent, as if nothing had happened. You too have abandoned me.
I do not like that tone at all, Princess. I recommend that you speak to me properly.
I speak as I wish, despicable being.
The Snow Queen. Another fairy tale by Anderson. The Snow Queen is a singular work published in 1844. Contrary to what its title might suggest, the eponymous character is quite secondary, as it is mostly the initiatory journey of two children. The story begins with the devil creating an ominous mirror which has the property to twist reality, making the good and beauty appear vile and monstrous. Imps take possession of it, and fly away towards the kingdom of God, determined to mock the reflections of angels. But they inadvertently let the mirror slip, and it shatters into billions of tiny pieces, while maintaining its evil properties. As the winds scatter the fragments, some as small as grains of sand, humans get them in their eyes and start to perceive the world in a completely distorted way. It is unfortunately what happens to a little boy named K, who receives a fragment in his eye and a fragment in his heart. Becoming cold and indifferent, he follows a big white sledge, which actually belongs to the Snow Queen, and arrives at her castle. His friend Gerda will have to go on a dangerous journey to find him again, and will come across several fantastical elements along the way.
The devil's mirror must have penetrated your heart, as it is an absolute piece of ice. Never have I seen anything like that. Very well, if my presence is so unwanted, I will leave at once. Do not expect to see me any time soon. But know that if I hear those piercing shrieks in my head again, I will personally come to tear yours apart.
Turning words into actions, the fairy came dangerously close to the young woman and brushed her chest before it abruptly disappeared. The threat was enough to steal her a hiccup of surprise. Despite Medea's intervention, the situation remained unchanged. Kiana could have stayed passive for months, years even, if an event had not suddenly restored her will. One day, while the princess was sitting motionless on the patio, at the mercy of the bad weather, a trembling retainer came to find her. He had just drawn the short straw, unlike his stooges, and was cursing his bad luck, for he had no desire to deliver the message.
Madam, the Queen is asking to see you at the castle.
The Queen? Herself. She has heard about your delivery, and wishes to meet you in person. Little Moon is naturally invited as well.
Tell her that I accept her proposal.
A dark flame was rekindled in her eyes. Moments after, she hatched a plan to make the truth emerge. She would catch Seraphim red-handed. For the first time in months, she interrogated those among her servants that she deemed the easiest to convince. She promised the sun, moon, and stars should they accept to protect her against the Queen, should they accept to murder her. Too frightened by such obvious hostility, they all swore loyalty to her. Kiana went to bed satisfied, but so enraged that she could not sleep at all that night. All she could think about was how delightful it would be to feel her rival's bones crack between her fingers. She was staring at the ceiling of her room, a demented smile on her lips. As she had been invited to, the princess took place in the carriage at daybreak, her daughter at her side. She was so eager to reach the castle that the ride seemed interminable. As the towers were emerging from the mist, she was swinging her legs back and forth. Once she had set foot in the castle, she followed her escort to the banquet hall, expecting an attack. But nothing happened. Confusion was spreading to her mind when a silhouette walked towards her.
Welcome to our humble abode, Lady Kiana.
She recognized her rival and stepped back.
She is the one who wants to harm me. Catch her this instant.
The retainers stared at each other without moving an inch.
She wants to kill me, I know it. This invitation is merely a trap to steal my child and slit my throat.
Murmurs spread across the audience. Expressions became disapproving. She a bad bitch? Yep.
Really, Lady Kiana, I do not know who put that idea into your head. We have never met before, at least not to my knowledge. How can you be so sure that I am the bloodthirsty monster that you were describing?
The young Moor stuttered for a moment before collecting herself, almost desperately.
I know it, that is all. I saw you with my very own eyes. You tried to murder me.
A servant spoke, then another.
How can you think that we are going to believe you? You have no proof.
That's right. When and where have you seen Lady Seraphine commit those crimes? Confounded, Kiana raised her big lost eyes toward the queen. She was gazing back at her with a curious and friendly smile. The expression full of hatred that she had glimpsed before was nowhere to be found. Worse still, she seemed to genuinely have good intentions.
This is a conspiracy, is it not? Every single one of you is my enemy. I have known it since the beginning.
Calm down, calm down.
Prince Thalia suddenly appeared beside his wife.
Lord, how is this possible? You should have been on a business trip.
A trip? Who told you such a thing? Nothing of the sort was planned. The heiress stayed speechless, unable to grasp what was happening before her.
But you should have been. She was taking advantage of your absence to lay a trap for me.
Rather, you should be the one to explain your recent behavior, my lady. Do not withhold anything anymore. I have been told the whole story. What Kiana was not aware of is that, true to their word, the Claremont's retainers had indeed reported their worries to the sovereign a few days prior.
Latalia, the woman you brought here, she has demon blood. She bathes every night, breaks everything in the house, refuses to talk to anyone.
Why do they stand like Michelangelo statues? I don't know. She hits us, insults us, humiliates us from morning to night. Worse still, many of us do not feel safe anymore because of her regular threats.
She got Gregoire drunk and crept into your room to such it.
Just smacked Gemma because she was refusing to leave her alone with a peddler. He intervened and was treated the same way, to such an extent that he ran away. If you do not remedy the situation very soon, we will look for employment elsewhere. This is a very serious accusation here. I hope that you can support those claims. Absolutely. We have plenty of testimonies and evidences. Trust us, my lord.
We merely want the best for you. That woman is clearly unwell. She is a threat to herself and other people.
The
Besides, she neglects the little moon. We never saw her so much as touch her.
Thank you for having the courage to inform me of the situation. I will give it some thought and investigate myself.
Once their report was finished, the subjects bowed and took their leave. On their way, they met Lady Seraphim, who was precisely coming to have a discussion with her husband. My, what was this procession? Some bad news?
You are correct, I'm afraid. Do you recall that person I had talked to you about?
Your most recent mistress. The one who had to flee her country.
Lady Kiana seems to have become tyrannical. She is terrorizing the retainers, and I believe this is my fault. By revealing your existence, I have most probably broken her heart, and she is now taking it out on those poor people. I do not know how to solve this thorny problem.
Why not summon her here? A change of scenery would surely do her some good. And then we could have a one-on-one discussion together. There's likely repressed jealousy on both sides. It is therefore important to clear the air before it escalates.
Do you believe so?
We have more in common than you might think. Her distress touches me. I recognize myself in her, and I would very much like to meet her.
Would you happen to have something in the back of your mind?
You are overestimating my abilities, my lord. I was merely hoping that we could reach an agreement. Thus, no one would have to be unhappy.
Kiana let herself fall on the ground as if she had been struck by lightning. The realization was so powerful that it had penetrated her soul, and she suddenly started convulsing. Frightened, all the people in the room moved aside, but not without taking Moon away from her mother beforehand. Eyes wide open, foaming at the mouth, the princess began to howl as she had never howled before. Experiencing a frenzy episode, she was starting to tear her head out, to bang her head against the walls, all the while never stopping to yell savagely. All this time she had been chasing a chimera, an illusion. She was now realizing it all too well. Medea had been right. She had attempted to warn her. She had told her that it was impossible to flawlessly repeat the events of a timeline. And she did not listen, the imbecile. Upon returning to Claremont, she had altered small details, seemingly minimal things. But details had accumulated and, one thing leading to another, the outcome was now completely different. On this timeline, Seraphim had never given way to despair. Kiana had instead. For the people witnessing the incident, there was no longer anything human about the young Moor. She had become the spitting image of a witch, disheveled, with a distorted face and crazed eyes. So chill about the adultery this time? Possibly because Thalia told her himself, rather than her finding out. Through rumors and everything. Horrified, the servants cried out, "Look at her! She's possessed by the devil! She needs to be exorcised as quickly as possible before she contaminates us all!" The prince, as distressed as the others, thought it right to intervene.
I do not believe she is under a demonic influence. She is only attacking herself, and does not speak the language of the devil.
What would you recommend, my lord? We cannot leave her in this state.
Thalia immediately saw an opportunity to exploit. It so happened that he was precisely considering making Loon come to the castle. His people would be delighted to know his lineage is continued. What a shame it was that his mistress was not presentable. Retainers already hated her due to her despicable conduct. She would certainly never enjoy a good reputation with them. There was a great temptation to do something to both appease them and improve his own image. The prince sighed deeply.
I am afraid that it is too late for her. Her mind is broken. I do not know what could have produced such an effect, but it would be better to put an end to her misery, once and for all.
Seraphim let out a yelp of surprise.
Are you certain? Is there no other way to save her?
My subjects warned me that she refused to be treated. I fear that we have no choice but to put her to rest.
With a hand signal, the sovereign gestured to his servants to grab their former mistress in order to contain her. They immediately dragged her by force to the dungeon, where she is thrown whilst awaiting sentence. Her grunts turned into insults.
Dogs! Heretics! You have no right to do this to me!
She threw herself on the bars, did her best to wring them, bite them, but nothing would do. She was trapped. Nameless Sins is the name of this track. As her dark rage had drained her of her strength, she eventually sat down on the wooden board that was both her chair and bed. Faint halos of light were reaching her from the tiny windows of her cell.
How did it get to that point?
Her face buried in her hands, she sighed and cried her eyes out in the bleak silence of the prison.
What was the result of my sacrifices? This long month without rest, this constant nightmare. Have I accomplished nothing?
Withdrawn into silence, she remained motionless for hours, clumsily trying to retrace the events that had led her here, to find her errors, her crimes. As she was finally starting to atone for her sins, the king appeared before her with a serious look.
Madam, I regret to inform you of your impending execution.
Three Little Men in the Wood. Little Thumb Art. The Three Little Men in the Wood. Another tale told by the Grimm brothers in the first volume of Children's and Household Tales, The Three Little Men in the Wood offers a variation of the kind and unkind girl's motif. Two sisters that everything opposes, one virtuous, the other capricious, one scapegoat, the other favorite. The heroine is sent to the forest in the middle of winter to pick strawberries, and meets three little men. Through her kindness, she passes their test without knowing it, and they reward her by predicting that she will marry a king, and making it so that gold falls from her mouth at every word. Jealous of this gift, her cruel stepmother asks her own daughter to go to the forest, but she fails the test. Instead, the little men predict that she will die a horrible death, and toads come out of her mouth at every word. Beside herself, the stepmother kicks the poor girl out of the house as revenge. Fortunately, a king passes by in his carriage. Touched by her distress and beauty, he takes her with him with the firm intention of marrying her. A lovely child is born of their union. But her family gets wind of her happiness. The cruel stepmother and her daughter immediately go to see her with bad intentions. As soon as the king has turned his back, they throw the queen in the river and the daughter takes her place in the bed. To conceal their misdeed, they pretend that the queen is sick, but the king eventually discovers the truth thanks to the ghost of his wife. He then asks the cruel stepmother what fate deserves someone who would dare to get someone out of their bed to toss them out of the window. The old lady replies that such a miscreant deserves to be put in a barrel full of nails rolled down the mountain. Without knowing it, she has just stated her own sentence.
Tomorrow, we will lock you in a barrel full of nails that have soaked in holy water, and we will let it roll down a hill.
So you are sentencing me to death without any qualms at all?
I have a lot of them, on the contrary. The moments I have spent by your side were very enjoyable, but it is clear that my selfishness has destroyed you, and for that I am genuinely sorry. At the very least, you have taught me, madam, not to flee difficulties anymore.
Kiana grinded her teeth and scornfully looked at him.
I am quite delighted to hear, Your Highness, that the villain that I am allowed the hero that you are to mature. What a wonderful story!
I must disappear because I am a hindrance,
who impede your desire to make a fresh start? Is that how you thank me for giving you the child you were waiting for so long? Know, Lord Thallier, that the ghosts of all your victims will come back to haunt you. Because I am not the only one you have broken, am I?
The monarch uncomfortably averted his eyes, and his silence taught her everything she needed to know.
To think that I was genuinely starting to grow attached to you. How naive I was. Farewell, madam.
The prince walked away without even looking at her, blowing her heart to smithereens.
What a fool, truly. I decidedly have no discernment when it comes to love. First Griselde, now Thallier, an abusive, bad-tempered man, and a dishonest coward. What will the next one be? A possessive, jealous man?
As Kiana was wringing her hands in dismay, the sound of footsteps echoed in the prison's corridor. She paid no attention to it until the echo stopped right in front of her cell. Upon turning her gaze, she was taken aback to see Lady Seraphine holding Little Moon in her arms, all wrapped up in swaddling clothes.
I apologize for intruding, but I had to visit you before it is too late. To laugh at me, I presume? Go ahead, treat yourself. To tell the truth, I wanted to thank you. Thank me? My relationship with Prince Thallier had greatly deteriorated those last few years, and I was convinced that he did not want me anymore, that he was going to repudiate me. I was on the brink of falling into despair, and then something changed in him the day he met you. He became more considerate. He started talking to me again. I was so happy.
She marked a pause before continuing.
I do not know what could have happened for you to consider me your worst enemy, but I swear that I have never meant you harm. I understand all too well your pain, because I have lived through it as well. After all, it could have been me in that cell. I could have crossed the line and lashed out at you by committing regrettable acts. But, one way or another, it is as if you had taken a weight off my shoulders to put it on yours instead. And I would like to thank you for that, even if it may seem strange to you. No, there is nothing strange about that. Really? That is a relief.
Seraphine looked nervous.
I am determined to adopt Moon. I admittedly cannot have a daughter, but I promise you to treat her as if she was my own. Your sacrifice will not be in vain.
A tear rolled down the cheek of the young Moor when she heard those words.
Is that really true?
The queen thought that Kiana was talking about the newborn baby, and spoke in the gentlest tone she could.
I assure you of that.
Moon moaned in her sleep, and the queen lovingly gazed at her.
I will take great care of her. However, my understanding is that you have yet to give her a name, and I am quite reluctant to choose one in your place. Would you not find her a name?
The princess shook her head.
That is very kind of you, but she is your daughter now. I will let you have this honor. Really?
Seraphine looked delighted. The guards then signaled to her that it was high time for her to leave. She nodded before facing her rival one last time.
Thank you for everything, Kiana.
The footsteps made their way back, and the heiress could finally let her grief run wild.
Are they all happier without me? Thallier is about to mend his ways, Seraphine has never succumbed to hatred, and they can now start the family they had always desired. All I need to do is let myself die, to make 3 people happy. But I do not want to die. I do not want to be perforated by that wretched barrel. Oh, destiny can be so cruel.
I keep telling you so from the very beginning. Surprised, the young woman jumped and inspected the room. Nobody was here. Only a mysterious shadow was looming over her.
Godmother, is that you? Why am I unable to see you?
Had I not told you that you would never see me again, I refuse to appear before you.
So you are still upset with me?
What, did you seriously expect that I would condone your unacceptable behavior? You are decidedly too accustomed to being spoiled, dear. That comment proved to be hard to swallow for Kiona, and she grumbled in return.
Is that how you are seeking reconciliation?
Reconciliation? Me? You are dreaming, my child.
I have esteemed this to be the best one for you. I have esteemed this time to be the best one for you to apologize. Apologize? What for?
For treating me so poorly.
Admit that you vented your puerile anger on me, and I am willing to forgive your folly.
Wounded in her pride, the princess could not agree with her. She did know in her heart of hearts that she was the one responsible for this disaster. Yet she could not admit it out loud, even less so acknowledge that the fairy had been right from the start. Therefore she grimaced and muttered to herself.
Since you have appeared by your own volition, why would you not go first?
Have I misheard? You demand that I be the one to apologize first for daring to dump you when you were insulting me right under my nose?
I was not insulting you.
Really? I have been far too generous to merely leave you to your own whims, when I could have silenced your impudence by breaking every single bone in your body with my mind. The creature's voice became fulminating. Very well. I will no longer ask for a simple apology. You will now have to beg me to obtain that I spare your life. They loved the word volition in Deadwood. Yeah, like the people who wrote this game clearly have certain words that they really love.
Beg? Never. It would be a disgrace for a person of my status.
In that case, go to hell. It looks like it is calling you. Kiana tried to mitigate the dispute, but it was already too late. The shadow had vanished. She then realized the horror of the situation. She was going to be executed at dawn, and she needed the fairy's powers to break the deadlock. Biting her lips, the princess attempted to summon her godmother again.
Medea? Medea, I urge you to come back.
To no avail.
My God, what have I done?
Panic slowly but steadily set in her soul.
Medea, I was mistaken to yell at you. I did not mean to do that. I apologize for what I have inflicted.
Increasingly distraught, Kiana clamored her name for the rest of the night, in the hope of appeasing her, but the creature remained deaf to her prayers. When the first rays of sun appeared through the bars of her cell, her self-importance had been completely annihilated. With eyes full of tears, she whimpered. She, who had thought herself above death thanks to the fairy's pact, was now looking with disgust at the darkness awaiting her. The princess was so worn out that she could not even struggle when guards took her to the scaffold. The structure was quite basic, an assembly of wooden parts in the middle of a meadow. The audience was just as limited, as if the prince had wished to make her execution more intimate. In front of the instrument of her death, she cried even more and repeated her godmother's name over and over. Well, the pain was unbearable. Blah, blah, blah. And dead again. Hurrah! That's fair to...
Medea, I urge you to save me.
The executioner thought that she was delirious and barely paid attention to her. She was thus placed in the barrel. Cramped and terrified in this makeshift coffin, she stared at the nails that were protruding on either sides, the nails that were about to penetrate her skin and rip her entrails.
No, no!
Everything is ready, Your Majesty. We are only waiting for your green light.
No!
Kiana's scream rent the skies as a knife blade would do.
Medea, have mercy! I beg of you, everything but that!
Have I just heard the magic word?
I beg you, forgive my affront. I will never do it again, I promise. Please make it so that I can go back in time to undo my mistakes.
As he had obtained his master's approval, the executioner approached, ready to roll the barrel down the slope. Racked with terror, she screamed louder.
Medea!
Suddenly, at the last moment, at the very moment that Kiana was dropped on the hill, booed by Thalia's retainers, the magic circle appeared inside the barrel with a dazzling light. Hey, she gets to not die this time! And then, everything went black. Impalement achievement. The princess brutally regained consciousness on her bed, her breath taken away. In contrast to previous times, she was not directly assaulted by a flood of memories and sensations. Quite the contrary, the images of her past lives were only slowly, almost bit by bit, reaching her. Worse still, she did not feel anything anymore, nor fear, nor sadness, nor pain. Thus she blinked, dazed, in an extreme state of apathy. Through having repeated close experiences with death, trauma after trauma, she had eventually lost track of herself, and did not understand where she was, or who she was. She hazily recalled being a farmer who was taking care of her little sister in the countryside. At the same time, it seemed to her that she had been a chambermaid, cook, or washerwoman and had served a lord. Yet she also had the hazy recollection of a courtesan life for a completely different king. And the place she had found herself in prompted other confusing memories she struggled to put in order. Which one of all those realities was hers? At that very moment, the young woman was convinced that some fragments of her memory were fake or mere dreams. Indeed, how could she have lived all those things at the same time? There could only be one right answer. Then who was she? A farmer, a servant, a courtesan, or a princess? Upon seeing her clumsily get back on her feet, her eyes fixed on an imaginary sky, Nahima immediately realized that something was off. Is everything all right, princess? You seem lost.
Princess? Is that what I am? But everything else, what does it mean?
If this is supposed to be a joke, it is not very funny. Of course you are the heiress. Who else could you be?
I think I am a farmer who lives in a hamlet with her family. My father is injured, and my mother is taking care of him. And I have a little sister whom I adore. What is her name again?
Princess? What are you talking about? You've never been outside of the castle.
Really? Then I must be a servant. Others make fun of my garb, and I need to prove my worth. I believe the royal steward took me in. Perhaps you know her. She is a woman on the plump side, very kind.
The royal steward? I have never heard of a person who could fit this description. And I have been living here for years. Does maybe say this? Nope, she just retconned her baby. She retconned her baby out of existence again.
Ah, that is right. Who are you? I often see you in my dreams. Are we friends? Princess, you worry me more and more. You seemed perfectly fine earlier. What happened?
The confidant started to panic and tried to gently shake Kiana to make her return to her senses.
It is me, Nahima, your personal court lady. Please tell me that you know who I am. I think I do, but you do not seem to exist in all the places I have visited. This is odd. Am I a traveler?
She butterfly affected her baby? Yep. I prefer retconned. I'm a comic guy. I'm a comic person, so she retconned her baby. Good heavens, could it be that you hit your head on the edge of the bed without my knowledge? Or has one of your godmother's spells gone out of hand? It boggles my mind. Distraught, the young Moor began to flail around. What should I do? What should I do? Think, Nahima, think. There must be an explanation. Not knowing what to do, she ventured to call the fairy aloud, convinced that she would know how to cure this mysterious disease. Heated both babies out of existence? Yep. Ayo, Lady Fairy? Are you there? If you are, please answer. It is horrible. The princess has lost her memory. I mean, kind of the opposite. Do not fret. This is only temporary. Hi, Mommy. Stunned, Nahima turned and noticed the fairy, quietly sitting on the edge of the window. Usually she would have been struck by her extraordinary appearance, as it had been the case during previous timelines. But, this time, the health of the heiress was at stake, and she could not afford to pay attention to such a minor matter. She therefore showed little signs of being disturbed. So you know the origin of her disease, madam? Absolutely. Our princess simply abused my magic, and she is now experiencing some of its consequences. How is that possible? We were thinking of a plan so that she could escape her father a moment ago. And you tell me that she has already asked for your assistance? Medea closed her eyes pensively. You should not hear it from my mouth, but it is not good to push you to the sideline either. Given the state your mistress is in, I will take over. The fairy sighed and beckoned her to come closer. Leaving Kiana to her amnesia, she complied. The reality you know has been distorted by my magic. To you, this innocent discussion dates back to a few minutes, no more. To the princess, it dates back to several months. Several months? In reality, Kiana already made her choice and left the castle. However, her plan was foiled and she decided to use my magic. And this is when the spell turned against her? Let us say it this way. Her wish was to roll back time to this night in order to revise her plan. Unfortunately, she has been trying the same move many times now, and my magic is starting to negatively impact her psyche. So you know everything. The two women turned around. Kiana had stood up, life seemingly back in her eyes. I see that you have finally come to your senses. Princess, is everything all right? It is fine, Nahima. I remember everything. I simply needed some time. What a relief! I owe you an apology, Godmother. I acted very poorly the last few times we saw each other. I do not hold grudges, eh? Do make sure you are more careful next time. I rarely give a second chance. I do not know if I should thank or curse heaven for you seem aware of everything this time. How come? Oh, nothing riveting. Since you confessed going astray early on in the last timeline, I cast a spell on myself in order to keep some of my memories when you would turn back time once again. Indeed, you cannot hide anything from me anymore. I see. In her heart of hearts, the young Moor was feeling something like relief. Although it was hardly to her advantage that the fairy remembered how she'd insulted her, Kiana felt all but calm. A tiny part of her burden had been removed. Every time she turned back the clock, she would erase what she had gone through, good and bad things alike. It did not matter since nobody remembered it. Yet she was not entirely alone this time. Medea knew. And Nahima, too. Is she telling the truth? Have you traveled through time? I was not aware that you had experienced all those things in my absence. It is fine, Nahima. I tried to tell you the first few times, but you did not believe me. I eventually gave up. I am sincerely sorry. I cannot exactly fault you for that. Creating distortions in the fabric of time should be impossible. How could you ever believe me? Besides, this is all history now. That reality no longer exists. The princess lowered her eyes with such a heavy look, a look so filled with sorrow, that Nahima's heart sank and she did not dare say anything again.
One mystery remains. Godmother, I get the impression that I have radically changed my approach with each timeline, yet they all ended in unspeakable cruelty. What could I so systematically do wrong? I thought I was too distrustful, so I wanted to become friendlier, more open-minded. Then I thought I was too kind, too naive, and I tried to become stronger, to inspire fear. What more can I do to break out of this vicious circle?
You are looking at it the wrong way, love. I already told you so. You have lost sight of your goal for some time now. You need to find it again in order to light the way. And I know I already told you so, but you cannot rely on my magic forever.
What do you mean?
Have you noticed how difficult it was to wake up this time compared to your previous temporal incursions?
Evidently something is different. Perhaps is it because you saved me at the last minute?
Actually, this is not how the fairy's power works. You never escaped death to begin with.
And yet I am the living proof of that.
Remember my advice. I had expressly requested that you would be clear in the wording of your wish. The reason for that is simple. My magic adapts itself to your wish. As it happens, you did not ask to survive an execution, but to go back in time.
I am afraid I do not understand. Is the result not the same?
Hear me out. The truth is that you really did die several times. I did not save you.
Pardon? You left the princess to die?
Exactly. Since my memories have been preserved, I can confirm that you were pierced by the barrel's spikes a couple of seconds after my incantation. After shrieks beyond imagination, they left you to rot there, torn to shreds but still alive. Impaled on those nails, you were unable to extract yourself from the barrel, and died of bleeding after several long hours. The king then disposed of your body, which was quite a sorry sight, inasmuch as you were unrecognizable. In your last breath, with one eye punctured, you cursed me, as you likely cursed me the previous times, believing that I had betrayed you.
I do not understand. You claim to have failed?
No, my spell worked perfectly. Thanks to my magic, your consciousness was saved and sent back to your body before the tragedy happened. I used the same principle in order to become your equal in this timeline. Nothing more.
Why are you telling me this?
The reason is quite simple. With each new journey, your doppelganger dies, and life goes on for the people you left behind. There are now several realities in which you are no more, and I am freed from the pact. But what interests us here is the way my magic operates. Kiana from the original timeline is lying on the bed when her consciousness from an alternative timeline reaches her, and attempts to infiltrate her mind to supplant the previous one. According to you, what makes the transition possible? It's a good question, I suppose. Time is absorbing itself.
You mentioned in a prior conversation that time itself was reacting to my interference by attempting to erase it and limit its damages on the cosmos' harmony. Would it be possible for the world tree itself to cause my temporary amnesia? Since I have created alternative timelines, it is gradually wiping them away so that order can be restored. And because those memories are no more, I come to forget them eventually.
Oh my, this is a perfectly valid theory.
I deduce that, instead of directly disposing of me,
The World Tree attempts to indirectly do so by erasing everything that is related to the enchantment. This way, it probably expects that I will stop disrupting the flow of time on my own initiative, as I will not be able to remember my mistakes.
Medea gazed at her protege with admiration. Something close to pride was gleaming in her eyes. I intended to mention a radically different hypothesis, but this one does hold water. You truly have a particular affinity with magic, love.
Really?
Absolutely. I think you would make an especially interesting candidate. The creature remained silent a few moments, visibly in deep meditation. Disconcerted, Nehema ventured to call her out. Well, Lady Fairy, is everything all right? As a reply, she jumped. What am I thinking? I am not here to recruit new fairies. Bouncing up and down, she picked up the thread of the conversation again. Yes, this is it. The World Tree can indeed be responsible for this disturbance. However, there is another possibility which deserves to be analyzed. Yep. Good night, Killface. I'll be ending very, very shortly, so you won't miss too much. I'll be ending this stream very shortly as well. At the time of your awakening, the two consciousnesses are theoretically equal, as both are convinced that they come from the real Kiana. But your alternative being has a major advantage. The trauma of death, a powerful fear, an inconsolable sadness, a fierce hatred. Your last moments are so intense that those memories easily prevail and, indeed, your emotions are what previously allowed the transition to happen.
If this logic is followed, should I not be unable to remember more than one life at a time?
Not at all, because you have assimilated an increasing amount of timelines with each new attempt. The most recent one always wins eventually, as it is the most imposing.
In that case, my last try should have been just as successful.
This is where our problem appears. This time you did not experience strong emotions when you died, except for the failure to grasp what was happening. You were in such confusion that your memories thus struggled to return to your body and replace your former self. Furthermore, even though you are collecting an ever-increasing amount of experiences, it is still difficult for your mind to clearly demarcate the different timelines, making them blend in your head over time. It was especially obvious at Claremont because, despite my warning, you made the folly of wanting to replicate what you had been through exactly as it was before.
Is it really necessary to reopen the wound?
As long as the lesson has not been learned. I believe that you are now visualizing rather well the harm there is in disconnecting yourself from reality, but this is not your only issue. So there is more bad news? Yet you had promised that your magic would not be dangerous. I have never lied, dear. Kiana had always been warned that she needed to make good use of the fairy's power to avoid unfortunate consequences. Hey, Venna. And she abused my spell by repeatedly making wishes instead of paying the fairy's tribute, as indicated in our pact. I shall not be liable in case of cheating.
This is enough, Nehema. Medea is right. This is entirely my fault.
I would like to point out that nothing obligates me to help you, and that I am nonetheless doing everything I can to find a solution.
And I am grateful for that, Godmother.
Lady Medea, is that it? If the princess put her trust in you, then I will do the same. Very well. I would like to add this. Your new consciousness is admittedly fraught with memories, often intense ones, but it is also becoming less and less compatible.
What do you mean by that?
By gaining experience, you are bound to become another person. You are changing. And while this is a positive in itself, it does create a rupture with the one you were doing during the night of our pact. As you travel through time, the old Kiana drifts away, and your body might reject the new consciousness at some point. If the fusion becomes this perilous, and you still force new memories to enter, your psyche might eventually break.
No less.
I must reassure you, this is only an hypothesis. I cannot know exactly what would happen if your psyche were to be damaged. However, I do consider the situation serious enough for you to take more time to develop a strategy.
I understand. Thank you for your concern, Godmother.
The fairy blinked, taken aback. Have I ever mentioned being worried?
Indeed, you have not. However, you would not give advice if you do not care one bit about me, would you?
In response, Medea looked away, embarrassed. Think a little bit longer before taking a decision this time. And she unceremoniously vanished. And I think that's where I'll end this episode. Because we are over 2 hours now. So, we made it 2 hours. I made it 2 hours. Woo! Died again. Hurrah! And I think we might be entering the final life. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we've entered the final attempt. One last chance to make it right. So probably only 1 or 2 episodes left, I would guess. Probably 2 episodes left, I would guess. That's my suspicion. So that'll do for tonight. So thanks for watching. Can you recap real quick? Yep. So the recap for this past 2 hours, Kiana went crazy and got herself killed. She went crazy. So thanks for coming, and good night, everybody.